Welcome to the second episode of the Kinetic Spine and Sport podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Luke Weber, and today we have a pretty fun guest that I've gotten to know over the last 4-ish years since I've been around, which goes super fast.
Mm-hmm.
But first, thank you to the Moondogs production team for making this possible, letting us use the next door office space to kind of push this project out. So, I'll introduce, this is Autumn Spence. She's the owner of Fitness Untamed, which is one of the local gyms in town, and she wears a lot of different hats as a gym owner, a CrossFit coach, a mom, a good community person, and I think where probably most people around here know you as is the CrossFit mom that went to the CrossFit Games now twice, right?
Yep.
So you just got back from your second CrossFit Games a month ago?
A month ago.
Yeah, cool. And you finished in what place?
27th out of 40.
Out of?
40. Well, or thousands, I guess you could say.
Correct.
But.
So she finished 27th out of the 40 participants, and that includes all the people that did the CrossFit Open around the world. So she's basically the 27th fittest female in her age group on the planet, which is like crazy. So where I wanted to start the podcast today was just asking you, now that we're a month after the CrossFit Games, what does a normal day / week look like for you now? Because it's a little bit different than what it was before. Right?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Okay. So,
just to help give people like a perspective, right? Like,
right.
There's in season, there's out of season. There's the training phase, there's the recovery phase.
Well, this year I did something very different that I've never done, I think, in my life. So I don't really think I have.
Yeah.
Well, okay. Kind of. Post-baby's different.
Sure.
Right. Okay.
Sure.
So I took a whole month off of fitnessing, I call it. I did a little bit of really light intensity cardio, so some walking, some biking, watching a television show. I did some moving, like yoga-ish stuff, I guess you want to say, for a whole month. And yesterday was my first day back.
Yeah.
And I'm really sore. And I didn't do much.
That's
okay, because it's good for me.
Yeah.
I guess it's been 2.5 weeks. I had carpal tunnel surgery. Because it just so happens when you have small hands and you like to lift heavy weights, your body does not like that. And it smushes your nerves and it makes your hands not feel very good. So that was a challenge this past probably 18 months. It's been probably bad since then. I had some good doctors over at OFC help me out and take care of me. And the surgery actually was pretty quick and actually very painless. And I hate to say fun. I know it's fun's a weird, because I just knew the doctor and I knew the nurse that was by my head the whole time. I decided not to get sedated or anything. They just kind of numbed my hands up, and it took like 9 minutes for this hand and 10 minutes for this hand. And I'm back to, being able to hold on to some simple things, but I have no pain at night and no pain in the shower. Put my clothes on, and it was fantastic. And I would recommend it to anybody, really, if you have to have carpal tunnel surgery. Hopefully you're not 43 doing it, but hopefully it's not till you're later in your life. So training now. I decided to sign up for a high rocks competition in middle of March because I didn't know how my hands were going to feel. And so I need a goal. And so I'm starting this zone 2 training, which is so weird for me because I'm so used to high intensity stuff. Right. And I am monitoring my zone 2 when I run, which is very weird because I don't feel like I'm doing a whole lot. But it's been good. recently, and you did too, went to DexaFit in town
Mm-hmm.
and got some cool numbers from some cool tests. And I'm kind of geeking out and using all the numbers and just giving me something to focus on and have fun with fitness.
Yeah.
So.
I'm still a little bitter about the numbers that I got after you shared the numbers that you got.
You have to remember when I do.
Yeah, I know.
I'm not saying I take better care of myself, but
It's just a different level. So the people understand what we're talking about at DexaFit, which is a new local business. They're not actually like open yet, but you can go in and get a DEXA scan done where they can check out your bone density and bone quality, which is super cool.
Mm-hmm.
And then they'll take you through just some like baseline metabolic testing. For part of it, you just have to sit and stare at this nature-filled screen and breathe with a partial mask on. And that's to get kind of your baseline ratings for stuff. And then after they get a baseline, then they need to figure out what is the other side of the line, or like your max.
Mm-hmm.
So you do, I'm blanking, what is it called?
VO2 max.
Yeah, a VO2 max,
Mm-hmm.
where they put you in another breathing mask and then put you on a treadmill, and then they tell you to run.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you're able to keep running, then they just keep making it faster until you say time out. And they use all that data to kind of show you like how many calories do you burn in a day as a baseline, how much does exercise play into it, to partially help people understand just their nutrition better. And then at the end of the whole thing, one of the scores that they give you is like, what is your physiological age based on, baseline data through a whole bunch of age groups. And I'm 33, and it said that my physiological age, I think, was 28.
Have you looked at it recently?
And I felt really good about that. No, did it change?
Mine changed.
Did it go even lower?
Yeah.
No way. So mine was 28, and I felt pretty happy about that because I try and take care of myself. But that's crazy. And they also have an app, so I don't know if you guys can see this on the video, but Autumn, I know you're not supposed to ask people how old they are.
Age of 43, and it says I'm 21.
Yeah, which is crazy.
So.
But does make sense from a metabolic standpoint because of what you do and how you train.
Mm-hmm. And how I sleep. And how I take water and rest and all the other important things and eat. Mm-hmm. I'm probably about 90% on my diet. Well, not the last month. I get myself a month off.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
That's kind of a good segue to like the next question. So like when you're in your normal training season, what does like a typical week look like for you in terms of training, your nutrition plan, just how do you manage stuff, right? Because you're not just training to hopefully compete at the CrossFit Games. You're also raising kids and running a business. And those are all very somewhat different hats. Okay. So let's start training wise.
Well, I know you wanted to get into this about my training the first time for the games versus the second time. Sure. And this is a good way.
Sure. Let's do that then.
Yeah. So the first time I made the CrossFit Games, it was, I guess, it's probably like 8 months post baby. Yeah. And I was very shocked. And I went in this like panic mode of, I don't feel ready for this. Right. So I started using macro stacks and like religiously was making sure I had all my macros in line. And I thought I needed to do 2-a-day workouts. And I train. I need to do this, I need to do that, prepare for the unknown. I needed to swim. I needed to do all this stuff where now looking back at it, I think I went overboard because I was so nervous. I didn't think it was real. Like I couldn't believe I was going. Sure. And I mean, I did well, but I think I was like mentally not where I should have been. And then when I made the games this time, I was way more relaxed about it. So this past, I guess, the CrossFit Open starts like late February. So we'll start call that like like the beginning, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
I decided I wasn't going to be that person this year because I felt like I missed out on a lot of my daughter's life. Like, I missed 3 months, but I felt like there was 3 months right before she turned 1 that I missed because I was so concerned about training. And so this time I didn't really track what I was eating. I mean, I did. I knew what I was eating.
Sure.
Right? Because I'm a creature of habit. I'm always eating the same stuff.
Yep.
But, like, if I want to make cookies, I'm going to eat some cookies. You know, I didn't log it. I just said, hey, cool, I'm going to eat some cookies. I don't really drink alcohol, so but if it was like my birthday, I had a glass of wine.
Mm-hmm.
But it wasn't, last time I was like, no alcohol. I was like, only this, only that, like, no cookies. Like, I was like depriving myself of like the good things in life. Like,
Yeah.
And so this time it was like, I think I did 2 a-day workouts, and that was really about it. I focused less on cardio, more on just like maintaining strength and like staying healthy. Because, my hands were bothering me, right? So
Sure.
there were some things that I didn't want to do a lot of,
Mm-hmm.
so that way I wouldn't make my hands swollen.
Mm-hmm.
Just because the cortisone shots can only help you so much.
Right.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
And what else did I do? I still kept sleep. My sleep was good. That's like number one.
Mm-hmm.
And then water intake was good. For me to like cheat on my macros is probably someone else's like really good day.
Sure.
You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
I probably ate like 32 to 3,500 calories a day. I probably could have ate more. But that's like where I was comfortable.
Were you similar to that the first time through, calorie wise?
That's a good question. No, I probably was way less.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Because I also had baby weight I wanted to lose.
Mm-hmm.
I was like a lot heavier than I wanted to be to do gymnastics.
Sure.
And then, yeah, it was a mess. I don't know why I didn't want to let me train the way I did. People were good in the games. I'm surprised my husband wasn't like, you need to just chill out.
Yeah. You were in charge.
I was, that's right. I was in charge because I was my own coach, right? So that's just kind of what I needed to do. And
Yeah.
I think I needed to train like I was 20. I needed to remind myself I was 40. And so I think I recovered okay because I was never really sore. But I just needed to feel like I needed to touch all the things all the time. And that's like where I went wrong.
Sure.
You know.
So then when you compare that to, this time training through, because I think that's a big thing. When I think about CrossFit and like talk to other people about it, I think one of the best parts of CrossFit is if you follow the program, and that also means you can modify anything within it, right? Like that's, to me, that's the other like golden part of CrossFit. But if you're following a CrossFit program, it more or less, I'm not going to say it makes you touch everything, but it really encourages you to, because there's days where you lift heavy, there's days where you lift light, there's days where it's high volume, there's days where it's low volume, there's days where it's longer cardio, there's days where it's like sprint, short and sweet, like stuff. And the cool part is like that challenges the body in a variety of ways that helps level up the whole health of the person, versus saying like, well, I'm just super strong, so I'm just going to keep benching 400 pounds and continue to be really good at that. It's like there's value in that, but then you end up being limited by your weaknesses. And like the cool part of CrossFit is if you just do the thing, you do get to build up. You don't have a lot of weaknesses, basically is what it is. But the other edge of that sword is, well, it's really hard to be good at everything too. And so you feel like you have to push everything to the max all the time, or else we get this idea that it like falters when it doesn't always do that. Yeah. So I guess, how did you look at that the second time, understanding like, okay, I don't have to, max effort on all these things? Like, did you prioritize things, or did you just structure it differently?
I actually bought some programming.
Okay.
Did I tell you that?
No, and that was going to be one of my other questions was like, when the person in charge,
Yeah.
that's in charge of everybody else's programming,
Uh-huh.
also needs help with her own programming sometimes,
Mhm.
because we all do. Like, what do you do?
Yeah. So I bought Legends programming,
Okay.
and it was hard, and it was good for me because a lot of the things that were programmed were things that I would never program for myself, and that's what I needed.
Sure. Because it was challenging for you, or just not a part of your norm?
It was things put together that I would ever put things together, or it was like, you know, you need to do like a 20 cal bike and you do 14 toes to bar, and then you need to do like in the remaining time, how many cows in a row can you get? And I'm always like, oh, I can't do that. And then
Sure.
I would do it. I'd do it like, oh, wait a minute, I can do that, because I would think I need more time.
Sure.
So it really taught me to. I learned a lot more about myself. Like I can sustain, you know, this high level of intensity and maintain gymnastics, and then get back onto something that's uncomfortable to me, like a rower,
Sure.
and like go hard, and then like rest a minute, and then I can repeat it.
Sure.
You know, so it's like, or it was probably the volume of gymnastics. I really like doing EMOMs. I kind of like to take care of my hands,
Sure.
right?
Yep.
And so forcing me to get out of my box a little bit and being like, okay, you're not going to have this rest period. You're going to like push. That was good. And then the running and the recovery days of this programming
Sure.
was like not what I would consider recovery, but it was a lot of running and biking. It was
Like
think-
lower impact lifting wise.
yeah. I mean, yeah, it wasn't like touching a barbell or dumbbell.
Sure.
Pretty much, right?
Yeah.
Or gymnastics. But it got me out of my comfort zone a lot with running without having to do a lot of volume running.
Sure.
And so this was different than last time, because last time it was like, I know they're going to have like a 5K. I got to run miles and miles and like train my running on top of weightlifting, on top of gymnastics.
Right.
And at that time, we didn't have some of the equipment we have now in our gym. So I had to go to Mankato CrossFit and do this. And I had to go to my friend Ryan's garage gym and do this. And it was like I was going all over town, like trying to find the things, right?
Right.
And this time I just like, these Thursday workouts were just like great. And it, you know, I just crossed my fingers we weren't going to do another 5K, because in 2021 we did a 5K. Or it was 4 miles. It was awful. It didn't go very well.
Yeah. Either way.
Either way. But
Us
this,
short people
right.
don't necessarily like running.
But this time, like, you know, even though the running event, I placed 29th, it was like a huge win for me though, because 29 out of 40, like that was like super cool, because I'm not a runner.
Right.
But I just played my game, and then all this training taught me how to play my game. Like, you know, it was, I think it was 600-meter runs with these deadlifts. And the deadlifts are 185, and that's simple to me, like simple work. But like, the girls went out hot, and they ran fast, and here I am, do. It's like, this is my game. Like, I can't go out hot with these girls, and we're in Alabama, so it's hot, right?
Yeah.
So you get outside, it's hot, come back in, it's cold, and that's when the sweat starts coming.
Sure.
And these girls, it's 5 deadlifts. Okay, cool. We go back out, come in, it's 10 deadlifts. And I'm looking, these girls are starting to do singles already. And I'm like, oh, what's going on?
Yeah.
I'm just kind of smiling. Then we go out again, we come back in, and it's 15, and they're still doing singles. And I go out, and there's people are walking. I'm smiling, because I was like, I don't feel like I need to walk. So I'm passing people. And then I get back in, and then it's like 20, and everyone's like doing singles. And it was like, I just did them unbroken, and like I beat all these people. It was so exciting. And the announcer came up to me afterwards. She goes, you played that so well. She's like, you went from like last place to like middle of that pack. And I was like, yeah, I just gotta play to my strengths. You know, just gotta learn.
Yeah.
And that just comes over competition after competition. You really learn to, like, people are gonna go out hot, like even in the gym setting. People are gonna go out hot, just the way it is. And if you are not a runner, there's no reason to be following those people.
Right.
You know.
Right. It's like the idea of like run your race.
Yep.
Right. But then
Always.
insert whatever. And I think one of like the cooler examples of that that I've experienced, like with you, is when you host the open workouts, right? And you know, we all kind of do it in waves, and then sometimes you would do it by yourself at the end, or with a smaller group. Because in order to qualify for the CrossFit Games, you have to videotape everything. It has to get approved. It has to be set up a certain way. But you would usually give the gym people like the speech of, don't tell me to go faster, don't tell me to go slower, cheer me on, like I want the energy, but I'm going to trust myself and do my thing because that's what I'm good at. And I think that's such a cool place of just like control and confidence that most people don't have. Like they just don't have the awareness, they don't have the gauge for it, and we all like naturally think like, if I don't start this as hard as I can, then I'm not going to finish it as hard as I can. And that's like saying, if you're going to go run a marathon, go sprint the first mile. Like it doesn't actually work that way, even though that's what our instincts say. And so it's cool when people kind of find that centered place to be able to work hard from. It was similar for like me in the college diving world way back in the day. It's like we either do 6 dives or we do 11 dives, and it doesn't matter if you win round 1, it doesn't matter if you win round 2, it doesn't matter if you win round 3. What matters is what is your total score at the end of it. And people would psych themselves out. You know, let's say they didn't do a great dive in round 1, then they just think, well, I just lost. Who says? You're not even 10% of the way done. Like you could have a totally different finish, and other people could maybe crash and burn, and like all of a sudden you are going to get first. And so there's just so much, I think, value in like that perspective of like, yeah, acknowledge the competitors, know that they're going to do their thing. If they're going to make poor strategy decisions, let them do it. And like stick to your strategy, because that's what's going to work best for you. So from a coaching standpoint then, like how do you kind of get that message across to like your gym members?
Oh gosh. Yeah.
Right? Because like that's one of the hardest things.
Yeah.
That's a weird question.
It is hard.
Because I also think about that like when I'm working with patients in the clinic, right? Like that's part of what I'm trying to educate people on, is how to understand where are you at this moment, what is the next best thing for you versus getting ahead of yourself. And
I think it's a lot of failing. You have to really learn, like in our like CrossFit world, like going out hot or putting too much weight on the bar, or I have another funny story about that. Like you have to learn, like you have to like pull yourself back and be like, this is me. It's me. It's really me against the clock or me against the weight. And you can't control anyone else. And it's like, if they're, you know, sometimes leaderboards shouldn't exist, because like at the games I had so many wins. You can't see it on the leaderboard, but internally I know.
Right.
Like that. And like to get that across to, you know, it just like, even like my son, like, you know, I know sometimes he gets frustrated in his class that we have, you know, like, yeah, people are going faster, but buddy, you're doing so much better than you did yesterday. You know, like getting that across, like, and it's like, it's not a taught like trait. Like we have to like, we always think we gotta go first. We gotta be, but like, you know, our name has to be in the top of the leaderboard, but it's like, you can't get to the top of the leaderboard without like all these failures and learning, right? And you just kind of keep climbing your old ladder. And one day you might be at the top of the leaderboard, you might not. But like I squatted the most I have ever front squatted at the games, you know, at 43. I don't know. It just keeps going up. It's a miracle. I don't know. But it's like, you had to play your own game. Like, I walked into this group. I was one of the smallest girls there. And I'm like, well, I'm hoping that these big, strong tree trunks of mine can get some weight up. You know? And it did, you know? So, But yeah, the funny story, a huge learning experience for me. It was, gosh, must have been like 7 years ago. For competition, it was a max overhead squat, like 3 rep max.
Mm.
And I was determined to get 175. I trained it. I did in the gym multiple times. I was fine. But this is like day 2, I think, into the competition. You're tired, right?
Mm-hmm.
I get the bar up. I think I tried 155. And they called no rep on one of my squats. And I'm like, no way. I'm like mad, right? I'm like, well, I'm going to do 175. So I put 165 on there. She still called me a no rep. And at this point, I'm just like furious, right? I'm like, I'm going to get 175. I'm like, I don't have much time left on the clock.
Mm-hmm.
If I have one more effort, this is what we're going to do. 175. I got 2 good squats. I couldn't stand up the third one. I got a 0 score.
Oh.
0 score because my ego and my head was like so high up there that I was like, this is what's going to happen. I've never had that happen before. Like, I learned so much. And like, ever since that day, people still are like, remember that time? And we were never going to be like that, Autumn. Yeah. Like, don't be like Autumn. Don't be like your coach and get a 0 because your ego got in the way.
Oh.
So it's like, because it's a learning experience.
Mm-hmm.
I'll never do that again. Like, even at the games for the front squat, I think I went too conservative because my goal was like 230 or 240. I think I started at 125. Get a good lift on there.
Get a good feel.
Just get a feel. Start late.
Yeah.
The only problem with that is then you have to make bigger jumps because you don't want to lift that many times in like 5 minutes, I think it was.
Right, like there's a fatigue point, right? Like if you're like,
when you're
I'm gonna go up by 10s.
You should never have. I actually did 5 attempts in 5 minutes. You shouldn't do that.
Sure, yeah.
But I had surpassed my goal of, I think it was like 245, then it was like 265. I had all this time on the clock, so I went 270. And I was like, oh, actually felt good. Here's my brother-in-law. He's always the good guy in the crowd. Go 275.
Yeah.
So put it on there. It was like the slowest. Dan, did you see that film?
Mm-hmm.
Slowest, like hovering, like in the middle of the squat. Like,
yeah.
Like life's going like this. Like I can't hear the clock counting down. It was like, I just got to put the weight down. I mean, it didn't happen.
Sure.
But it's there.
It's close.
I could do it.
That's funny.
And the funny thing is, like, I barely even trained front squats. I did a bunch of cleans and some front squats. And it's just one of those strengths that I just taught, like, I told myself, I'm a good squatter, so you don't need to squat all summer.
Mm-hmm.
Like, your foundation's there.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll get enough volume doing squat cleans and squat clean combinations with front squats. And we'll do some 5x5 back squats. Like, you'll keep your strength, but that's not where I needed to practice.
Right.
So.
Yeah, it's a good example of when you do enough, like around a certain movement or activity, you don't actually have to do the thing to either maintain it or even get better at it. Mm-hmm. Like, like a good example of that, like baseball players, for example, like. If it's a pitcher and they, let's say they throw like 80 miles an hour, when you go to the gym and work out and lift, like you're not throwing the weights, right? Like you're building up other things, but you can build your body in a certain way that translates, and then all of a sudden like you're throwing 85 miles an hour without really like doing much throwing in between. Mm-hmm. And it's this idea of like the overflow of benefits that I think so many people just in general miss. Like they think, well, I don't want to be a weightlifter or be big and bulky or whatever it is, because we have such a narrow perspective on, well, if I squat, then I'm only going to be better at squatting. It's like, actually, if you squat, like you're going to be better at moving furniture around the house. Mm-hmm. You're going to be better at doing whatever yard work you need to do. Mm-hmm. You're going to be better at helping someone in and out of a chair. Like that's like the secret benefit of just like being fit is like you just get to do a whole bunch of other things without thinking about it, versus people that have to think about like, okay, if I'm gonna go in the backyard and garden, am I going to be strong enough to get back up afterwards? It's like, well, if you haven't been doing that, then yeah, like that's going to be super tough versus like, oh, I just did lunges the other day, so I know that I can get down and get back up.
Mm-hmm.
Or like burpees, right? Like CrossFit's favorite activity.
Mm-hmm.
So it's, I just think that's a really interesting thing that just a lot of people miss when it comes to fitness.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, what else do we want to talk about?
I guess the other things that were different this year was instead of having, let's see, it was 4 years ago, instead of having like a 6-year-old and a newborn, I had a 4-year-old and a 10-year-old,
Right.
which is way harder
Yeah.
to have.
Yep.
Lots more sports happening. We traveled with hockey, and that was super fun. And then Lily's in dance, and that was super fun. And then TJ had traveled for lacrosse, so there was a lot more things going on that I was determined to be at. And even if it had to compromise some type of lifting session, and I would just go walk during an off time during a lacrosse game, that was way more, I guess, emotionally and mentally happier for me, that I figured that was the win, because I would be very upset with myself because I had a good squat session, but I'm missing out on some part of my son's life. Like that was just the direction that I went this time, and I think it was really good for me. I think like the mental part of getting into this competition season was just better. Because like it wasn't like I didn't care. It was just like I had other things that were more important. And a lot of the women my age, all their kids are grown up.
Sure.
You know, so they don't have younger children, or if they do, maybe they're 10.
Yeah.
But I think that's different. The only benefit I do have is that I own a gym, so I do have the ability to go when I needed to, right? Like so sometimes during the cross games, I would come to the gym, do like a quick hour of something before we left.
Sure.
You know, and I know there are a lot of CrossFitters my age that have full-time jobs. Not saying I don't have a full-time job, but it's not, their jobs aren't in the gym.
They have different constraints.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
I made sure we went to the cabin as much as we could. And usually I have one mode at the cabin, and it's cabin mode, which is like maybe a couple runs get in. My dad has a really nice garage gym that I will do some stuff, but it's never like, it's enough just to move and feel good from traveling.
It's not like when Rocky moves to Russia and works out in the cabin.
No, nothing like that.
It's like the best training ever.
Yeah.
Do you feel like, because obviously it sounds like your approach in the gym was different the second time through, that involved somewhat less training.
Yeah.
Right? And your perspective and approach outside the gym was also different, right? Of like giving yourself more wiggle room, or just being able to prioritize other things a little bit. With that kind of mixed in, do you feel like your approach to the games and your performance at the games was better?
Oh, 100%.
Like, do you feel like you competed better and like...
Yeah.
Okay.
I will say, I think I was way more competitive this time because I knew I could do well.
Sure.
And then in 2021, I think I was just like, I made it. Like, I didn't really care. I was just so happy to be there. Like, it was like your wedding day. I was trying to, like, absorb everything. You'll learn that soon. You just got to sit back and absorb everything, right? And then, but it was so funny because, like, I don't know, there's, like, two different experiences. And this time I absorbed it, but I was like, oh, I got this one. Like, you know, this workout's going to be good for me. I'm hoping for top 10 or...
Sure.
Because what you don't know is that division is from, well, you know, 40 to 44. And when you're 43 and a half, you're at the older end. I think I counted, there were like maybe 3 or 4 girls that were my age or older.
Yeah.
out of 40. Everyone else was like on the early side of 40. And when you get to be 43, every year counts
Right.
for recovery. And like all the things. Like I remember back when I was 40 and I could do this. And now I feel like I can't do that because it's harder. But usually, yeah, you know what I mean? So,
Yeah. It's, and I'm sure you see this too, like, with your gym member stuff, like, when, because not everybody that goes to CrossFit gyms or CrossFit style gyms also does, like, CrossFit competitions on the weekend, right? Like, some do, some don't. But I think it's always kind of fun and fascinating, and there's a learning curve when people decide, like, hey, I'm going to go do a CrossFit competition. Because I feel like that is very similar to, like, you know, the first time you went to the games. Like, it's like, I know how to lift, kind of, and I know some of the things to do, but, like, I have no idea, like, how this process plays out. And of the people that I've talked to, like, at competitions and whatnot, as long as they don't get hurt, most people walk out of that first competition of like, oh my gosh, like I just learned so much and I don't even know what to make of it. But like, I think it was cool, but like, it was also crazy.
Yeah.
So
you have all these feelings that you maybe never felt before.
Yeah.
Because I was a competitive dancer for many, many years. And you're there with a team, right? So like you're going in there with like 15 other girls. But these competitions, or most CrossFit competitions, you're alone.
Right.
And you're like scared, you're happy, you're like all the emotions.
Yeah.
Or like, I think team competition for CrossFit is worse because you like, I don't want to let you down.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Like, I can't get up this rope so many times. This is from experience in the past. You're yelling at me because that's my turn to climb rope and I can't.
Right.
Like, I'm letting you down, you know? And like, those feelings are so hard to swallow.
Yeah.
But letting yourself down is way easier.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah, that's funny.
What else did
I'm
I
just
have?
peeking at our time here. Oh, we're getting close. Nice. What else can we talk about? Can you talk about and this will be like the last part of the training stuff. Like what other things, obviously we had a bias connection to your training, but like what were some of the other things that you were also doing to like help support your training?
Oh, you mean like coming to see you?
Sure.
Well, having a chiropractor that's willing to see you once a week, every Monday, starts me out fresh.
Best start of the week.
Best start of the week. Yeah. Get my little bear hug.
That's right.
Every time. Yep. Is huge. I think that helps a lot too with like staying well. Like, you know, getting on the white blood cells and like everything's like working well, to say the right thing.
Sure.
Everything's working healthy besides like my movement, but keeping my immune system up, right? Like all those other benefits to getting adjusted. You introduced me to the people at Active PT, and now worked with Chloe for a while, and she moved, but I'm working with Kayla, and they're helping me with my stenosis, because, this girl has other problems. Stenosis in my spine. So we do a lot of, like, dry needling with stim, which is good. It feels great, and it helps me with my headaches and the other numbness that goes down my hands. Just tell the world my problems. But it keeps me moving well. And it's just, even if it's, I think the biggest thing about seeing a PT or a chiropractor, it's not always about fixing you when you're broken, it's about keeping you well.
Sure.
Like there's an importance of like maintenance, right? I think that keeps you from coming to you with being broken. Because it's probably a lot easier to see people that are not broken and trying to help them versus just keeping them stay healthy. What else did I do? I didn't really do any like ice baths or saunas this time. Mostly because my husband would ask ask me, you shivering for an hour after being in the ice bath, is it worth it? So here I'm spending like 2 hours of my day, in the ice bath for whatever, 3 minutes. And then I'm spending like an hour and a half shivering on the couch, like wasting my day.
This is great.
This is helping me. I see the benefits to it, totally get it. Yeah. Used an ice bath for my arms a couple of times during the CrossFit Games to decrease the swelling.
Sure.
But it just wasn't for me.
Yeah.
I use a lot of Normatec. Massage guns. I have, what's my arm thing called? Like a forearm roller. It squeezes it.
Yep.
Oh, it's
called
Yeah, it's really nice. During the CrossFit Games, my brother-in-law, who works at Lifetime, is a really good person to stretch you out. And so I really enjoyed doing that as a warm-up, like doing an active stretch with somebody. Sure. It's way easier than stretching yourself or like activating your own muscles. That was really nice. I'm pretty blessed to have him come to a lot of my competitions. What am I missing? I don't know. I feel I use a product called Third Z's, which is something that helps me rest better without melatonin. Should throw that out there. You can get 20% off using the code Autumn ZZZ at thirdzee.com. Autumn sleep, yeah. Also, nutrition is huge. Part of my training too. They keep me loaded with protein and creatine and magnesium and what else? That's really about it from them. I don't use a lot of pre-workout, but they've been a good part of my health team, I like to call it. It helps that my husband likes to cook for me. So I should shout out to my husband, Timothy Spence, for being a fantastic cook and keeping me out of the restaurants and in the kitchen.
There you go. Everybody needs a good husband.
I know. I'm trying to think. I'm probably missing something.
Yeah. That's a good chunk, though.
Yeah.
No, it's always interesting to hear what people do like outside the gym, just to like support, whether it's what you're supporting inside the gym or just like what you're doing to support yourself. Because like either people prioritize their health or they don't, and if you don't, then you can still be fine and healthy as long as you're still doing like the stuff that's helpful, and I think some people just end up doing enough good stuff to stay healthy, but it just seems I don't want to say easier because it's not necessarily easy to be healthy, especially in our world, right? But when you can find a good community of people that also prioritize it the same way, or that also have a similar perspective or services that at least like support that perspective, it definitely makes it easier, because you still got to like work at it. Health is just one of those things that like in order to get high levels of health, like you just have to work and do the right things for it. I see it. It's just like being rich. You just don't get to wake up one day and think like, well, I just want to be rich today, so I'm going to be rich. It's like, no, like you probably have to work hard to get there. And so it's like once you understand, okay, this is just something I'm going to work at, how can I do my best to work at it and be supported in doing like that best work?
I think that's why CrossFits or gyms that are like CrossFit, like ours, you get to know these friends and they just all want to exercise the same, and next thing you know, everyone's kind of eating the same. Or like if we were to go out to a gym event, we're not all 100% healthy, but it's health conscious, I guess you want to say. So it's just good to be around people that if you want to eat this way, you want to drink this way, you want to sleep this way, exercise this way. It's good to find those people that are the same, because those are gonna help. They're gonna help you stay that way, versus having those friends that can have a tendency to be poison.
Sure.
They can still be your friends, but those are the friends that, you have to let them know, hey, this is how I like to do X, Y, and Z. Just support me, even though you don't support it, right?
For yourself.
Yeah. And so that's huge. But I think that's why like CrossFit and functional fitness gyms do so well, because everyone kind of wants to be the same. And then you hang out and you realize like, hey, we all have so much in common, versus like other gyms, and where you just like, I see you every Tuesday. Hey Luke, what's going on? Bench press again? Okay, cool. You know what I mean? Like,
we squatted today, but yeah.
It's yeah, I think that's good.
Awesome.
Find your people that support you.
Yeah. Well, let's wrap up on that and just let people know how they can find you, your crew, right? So just where can people find you?
Where can they find me? My husband and I actually own 2 gyms. We own Fitness Untamed and Maverick Fitness. They're both located in Mankato, Minnesota. You can find more information at fitnessuntamed.com or maverickfitness.com. And don't quote me on that website. There might be an underscore in there.
Sure.
Sorry. Don't use that website, honestly, very much. It's more of my husband's gym.
And then on Instagram, you guys got stuff on there too.
Yes, we are both on Instagram. And then, or you can just hunt me down on Instagram also at Spence Light. My husband likes to call me Spence Light, so that is my name on Instagram. At Fitness Untamed, we offer a free week of fitness to come try us out. I think it's always good to give any new gym 3 times just to figure out if it's the right place for you. We offer classes all through the week. We have classes for people who are over 50, and we have classes we have classes for kids who are 8 to 13 that we do twice a week. Gotta teach the kids that fitness is fun and that gyms are not scary. Yeah.
Love
and tell the adults that gyms are not scary also.
And share the message to the rest of the categories of population.
Yeah. Cool.
Awesome.
I think that's about it. Thanks for having me, Luke. This was fun.
Of course. Awesome. I'll probably bring you back in here again.
Yeah.
So, thanks for tuning in, folks. Have a great rest of your day, and we'll talk to you later.